The very small something. Once upon a time, there was a very small something. It was so very small that no one could hear or see it, and even the very small something didn't really remember what it was. It had forgotten. And so the very small something set out to find out what it was. Eventually, the very small something made its way up a very strange path to a collection of houses. On the path, there were 3 houses that stood out to the very small something. The first was an impossibly short and fat house, bright red, with a big fluffy door made out of cotton that the very small something thought looked very soft and nice. The very small something tried knocking on the door, but it was so very small that no one heard. So the very small something sat down and waited for a very long time. After a while, out of the door came a creature unlike anything the very small something had ever seen before. The creature was big and purple and fuzzy and came rolling out of the house very fast. The very small something noticed that the creature only had 1 arm, but somehow it knew that this creature's name was Goat. But as the very small something watched and wondered at Goat, he was already rolling his way to the other house. And so the very small something and Goat made their way up to the second house. The second house was amazingly tall and thin and bright blue. The house's door was made out of multicolored string that the very small something thought looked very delicate. Goat then called out for his friend, Coffee, and whistled and grunted a beautiful tune, and the string door began to shiver and shake. After a while, out of the door came a creature unlike anything the very small something had ever seen before. The creature was tall and long and made out of green wristwatches with one big green clock as a face. And the very small something noticed that it only had 1 leg that she hopped on. And the very small something listened as Coffee and Goat whistled and grunted happy tunes at each other before discussing their plans for a picnic. They had to go down to the last street on the house to pick up their friend. And so the very small something, Goat, and Coffee made their way up to the 3rd and final house. The 3rd house was a reasonable medium-sized house, but bright yellow, with a door made out of multicolored hobble-cobble mattresses that the very small something thought looked very springy. Goat and Coffee waited quietly and patiently for their friend, and the very small something did as well. After a while, out of the door came a creature unlike anything the very small something had ever seen before. This creature was, again, a medium reasonable size, but was made out of orange electronic wires and had a computer screen and keyboard as a face. The very small something noticed that this creature had 2 arms and legs. But while Goat and Coffee said hello, whistled and grunted to this creature, whose name the very small something learned was Piano. But Piano didn't speak or grunt or whistle like Goat or Coffee, but instead typed out their name on their big computer screen. The very small something suddenly realized it could type a message out on Piano's keyboard, so even if the very small something couldn't be heard, it could still talk with the trio. And so the very small something made its way up Piano's body, to their head, where there was a big keyboard, and the very small something began to type out a message. Now, while the very small something was typing very slowly, because, after all, they were so very small, Piano was quite confused, because they weren't typing out any of those words. None of the friends were particularly afraid, because this was normal enough for creatures like them, and it didn't seem dangerous. Goat cheerfully grunted that it was like all of them were detectives, which made everyone quite happy. However, the trio were on their way to a picnic, so they were hoping this mystery would solve itself very soon. So Goat, Coffee, and Piano all waited patiently for the message to reveal itself, just like how the very small something had waited patiently all day to figure out how they could talk to the friends. After a while, Piano's screen beeped softly, and Coffee began to read the message aloud in her whistling voice. Hello, Goat, Coffee, and Piano. Sorry for using your keyboard, but I'm so very small that you can't hear me otherwise. I have been on a journey to find out who I am. Well, to remember who I am. And I have seen you all today, and seeing you has reminded me that there are lots of ways to be yourself, that there are lots of ways to be and to speak. Seeing you all help each other, and your beautiful, interesting homes, made me recall other beautiful, interesting things, and the ways that maybe I often speak, like in whistling sounds, or in great big grunting gusts, and also in small little breezes. In fact, I think that's who I am. I'm a very small something that is very small, but also very big, that talks and sounds in many different ways. I am the wind. I'm everywhere. Thank you all so much. I hope that your picnic goes well. And as Coffee said the last sentence, out from Piano's head came great unfurling streams of air before it formed into a creature shape. It blew refreshing air into the trio's faces and gave a soft, airy laugh before dancing away into the sky, filling the hot day with soft summer breezes. Goat, Coffee, and Piano all looked at each other in amazement before laughing. How wonderful! They made friends with the wind. Then Piano adjusted their head and typed out joyfully